Evan Shaw, male Omega, 24 years old, diagnosed with early gland failure. The diagnosis was written in stark black and white. I had read it so many times I'd lost count, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, it was all a bad dream brought on by exhaustion. But right beneath that report was another one, my pregnancy test. Embryo implanted, 3 months along. I stared blankly at the 2 sheets of paper in my hands, same size yet completely opposite in meaning. The car slowed down. The driver's voice broke the silence. "Madam, we're almost there." I snapped out of my daze, quickly crumpled the gland failure report, and clenched it tightly in my fist. When I got out, I tossed it into the garden's trash bin, as if by throwing it away, I could discard the illness too. Clutching the thin pregnancy report, I stepped into the house. The butler came up to take my coat. "Mr. Smith has already gone upstairs," he said. "Would you like something to eat? The kitchen has everything prepared." I nodded, then shook my head. My heart felt completely hollow. This morning, I hadn't been feeling well. Nathan Smith was supposed to come with me to the hospital, but something urgent came up, so I went alone. After I got the pregnancy report, I messaged him, "Come home tonight. I have a surprise for you." But then came the second result, the one that shattered everything. Early gland failure. We only got married for business reasons. There's no way he'd accept an Omega whose glands were already aging, and I couldn't accept that my own life might be cut short. How was I supposed to face him now? My steps felt heavy as I went upstairs, anxiety twisting my stomach. I entered our bedroom. The sound of running water drifted from the bathroom. Nathan was showering. I stood at the door for a long time before pushing it open. The shower stopped. Without turning around, he said casually, "You're back." It reminded me of our wedding night. That time, too, I had been the one to take the initiative. Later, I learned that Nathan never locked the bathroom door when he showered, because no one dared to come in, no one except me. A year into our marriage, I was no longer that naive, shy man. I undressed and slowly wrapped my arms around him from behind. His hand came up, loosely gripping my wrist. "Why are your hands so cold?" His voice was calm, neither gentle nor distant, just matter-of-fact. He adjusted the water temperature, turning it warmer. The shower resumed, soft streams of water slipping between us. Rising on my toes, I nipped the edge of the isolation patch on his neck and peeled it off. His gland beneath was pale from being covered too long. I brushed my lips against it. "Nathan," I murmured, "why do you always forget to take this off when you shower?" His body temperature rose, and in the next moment he turned around, pulling me into his arms, sharing his warmth. As always, his kiss came before any words. It left me breathless, the sound of running water filling my ears. And in that moment, my mind flashed back to the day we first met. Nathan Smith was born emotionally detached, medically diagnosed as such. His parents died young, and his grandfather raised him. He had no plans to marry, which infuriated the old man. Grandfather Smith demanded he settle down or be disowned. At the time, the old man's health was already failing, so Nathan had no choice but to comply. When his condition briefly improved, he threw a grand banquet, inviting every eligible Omega in the city's business circle. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was just an illegitimate son, unworthy of the Smith family's notice. But since all my siblings were already married, my father wanted to use me to climb higher, so he sent me in their place. I still don't know why, but for some reason, Nathan chose me. Before the banquet even ended, he had someone bring me to the main house. On the table were 2 documents, our pheromone compatibility report and a diamond ring. He looked at me and said plainly, "Evan Shaw, will you marry me?" I said yes. Nathan held my hand and led me to his grandfather's bedside. The old man looked utterly satisfied. Back then, I didn't think too much about it. My only thought was that fate had finally handed me a gift, and I couldn't afford to let it slip away. Being Nathan Smith's nominal spouse, even if our relationship was cold and distant, was still better than being the illegitimate son of the Shaw family, constantly scolded for being useless. On our wedding night, I had gathered every ounce of courage I had and pushed open the bathroom door, wrapping my arms around Nathan from behind. I'd been trembling with nerves, and what did Nathan say to me back then? "Relax. Don't be nervous." Yes, that was it. Just like now. It seems that this so-called gift was never something I could really hold on to. I opened my eyes and tightened my arms around Nathan, pulling him close. His breath brushed against my gland, warm, unsteady, filled with restraint. "Nathan," I whispered, "bite me. Now." His fangs sank into my gland, injecting his pheromones deep inside. My legs went weak, trembling, but Nathan's arms held me firmly in place. I gripped the back of his head. "Don't stop, Nathan. Deeper." The world melted away. By the time he carried me out of the bathroom, my gland and half my back were covered in dark bruises. I was dazed, barely aware of anything, as he laid me gently on the bed. For once, Nathan didn't pull away immediately. He stayed beside me, holding me close, even pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. When I finally came back to my senses, I looked up at that familiar, expressionless face of his, one that seemed carved from ice. Yet now, under the dim light, it had softened ever so slightly, warmed by the scent of me lingering in the air. A bitter taste filled my throat. I couldn't bring myself to meet his eyes. My voice came out small, trembling but clear. "Nathan Smith," I said, "let's get a divorce." Nathan froze. For a few seconds, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the air conditioner. Then his calm, usually emotionless voice broke the silence. "What did you just say?" I covered my face. The wedding ring on my finger pressed uncomfortably against my skin. I said, "I want a divorce." Nathan's tone sharpened, each word deliberate. "Evan Shaw, give me a reason." I pressed my face deeper into my palms. "Do I need one?" "We only got married to fulfill your grandfather's last wish, didn't we?" Nathan's voice dropped low, almost through gritted teeth. "So now that he's gone, you're leaving me too. Is that it?" It felt like I had swallowed burning coals. Every word I forced out scorched my throat. "Yes." Nathan got out of bed. To my surprise, he didn't get angry. He didn't even raise his voice. "Evan," he said slowly, "I don't know what happened while you were out today, but when you left this morning, everything between us was fine. As far as I'm concerned, our marriage has been going well. If there's something you're unhappy with, tell me. I'll fix it." He paused, his voice steady but firm. "You're not in the right state of mind tonight. Get some rest. If you still feel this way tomorrow morning, we'll talk again." Nathan rarely said this much, and with that, he left the bedroom. Only after I heard the door close did I dare to lower my hands. I sat up slowly. My palms were damp. My tears had run down my face, soaking my wedding ring. I turned the ring between my fingers, and fresh sadness welled up again. That ring had been placed on my hand by Nathan himself, right next to our pheromone compatibility report. He'd given it to me before we went to see his grandfather, but it had always been a little too big. I had to hold it in place with 2 fingers to keep it from slipping off. I hadn't minded. Not until our wedding night. After carrying me out of the shower, Nathan had opened a small velvet box from the bedside table, a brand new ring inside. He'd taken my hand, slid the new ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. "Grandfather said I shouldn't let you feel wronged," he'd said softly. "That first ring was a standard size. I didn't consider your comfort. That was my mistake. This one is a gift. And my promise, I swear in this marriage I won't let you feel uncomfortable." His fingers had brushed mine then, warm and gentle, and that warmth had traveled straight through me, right to my heart. Only I knew how wildly it had pounded at that moment. Nathan Smith was a man who always kept his word, and in the year we'd been married, I'd been happier than in the 20-plus years before that. But maybe I was never meant to be happy for long. Maybe fate just couldn't stand to see me smile. I wiped my tears, twisted the ring, and decided it was time to give it back to him. Before I could take it off, the bedroom door opened. Nathan stood there, hands still on the doorknob, holding a thin sheet of paper. Behind him, the butler looked anxious, clutching my coat. My mind went completely blank. Nathan had my pregnancy report. The butler hurried to explain, voice trembling. "I only meant to send Madam's coat for cleaning, but this fell out of the pocket. Mr. Smith, please, whatever's going on, talk it out calmly." Nathan's expression was unreadable, grave. He waved the butler away. The door closed again, sealing us in the silence. He walked toward me, slow, deliberate steps. "So this," he said, lifting the paper slightly, "was the surprise you wanted to tell me about?" I turned my head away. "It doesn't matter anymore." "Doesn't matter?" His voice rose, quiet but dangerous. "You're carrying our child, Evan, and you still want a divorce? Why?" "There is no reason," I shouted. "Fine." Nathan's grip tightened on the report, the paper crumpling in his hand. "Then listen to me, Evan Shaw. You are not leaving me." He stepped closer, his voice low, unyielding. "Forget about divorce. Don't even think about it." He said it again, every word heavy with finality. "Don't even think about it." That was the first time I truly experienced Nathan Smith's domineering side. People often described him that way: decisive, unyielding, always in control. Once he made up his mind, there was no changing it. This time was no exception. He practically imprisoned me. My world shrank to the confines of the Smith estate. I wasn't allowed to take a single step beyond its gates. Nathan even brought in a private doctor to take care of me. But I couldn't let that doctor find out about my premature aging condition, so I resisted fiercely. In the end, they had no choice but to give up. After that, Nathan started leaving early in the morning and coming home late at night. The staff at the estate were all extremely professional. They did their jobs quietly, rarely crossing paths with me. The only person who spoke to me at all was the butler. The kitchen began serving medicinal soups meant to strengthen my body, but I couldn't keep anything down. 3 meals a day, and I would throw up at least 5 times. The butler would walk me around the garden and try to gently persuade me. "Mr. Shaw, every couple fights sometimes. Just take a step back and things will work out." I only shook my head and said nothing. I was never Nathan's best choice, and I couldn't bear the thought of withering away right in front of him. During our silent standoff, Nathan and I began sleeping in separate rooms. At first, I couldn't sleep at all. Later, the nausea from the pregnancy grew worse, and exhaustion finally won out. I'd fall asleep despite myself. But the absence of Nathan's scent on the pillow was unbearable. It couldn't be helped. Every Omega goes through this during pregnancy. Their body craves their alpha's pheromones more intensely than ever, and resisting that instinct is nearly impossible. I was furious with myself for not having hidden a few of Nathan's shirts in advance. When I overheard the butler on the phone with Nathan saying that he would be away on a business trip and not coming home, I sneaked back into the master bedroom. Quiet as a thief, I took a few of his shirts. I hid them under my blanket and pressed my face against the fabric, breathing in the faint traces of his pheromones, using them to soothe my restless body. I felt disgusting, pathetic. Biting down on Nathan's tie, I hated myself for being this weak. Why did I have to be sick like this? My emotions spiraled out of control. Exhausted, I fell asleep clutching his shirt, the lingering warmth of his scent wrapped around me. With his pheromones there, I always slept more soundly. Sometime in the middle of the night, someone gently adjusted my head so my neck wouldn't cramp. I opened my eyes and froze. Nathan was there, holding me from behind, his body cool from the night air. After a long silence, he sighed softly, voice barely above a whisper, like smoke in the dark. "Evan Shaw, why are you so stubborn?" I shut my eyes. Tears slipped down the same tracks they'd carved so many nights before. "Nathan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The night passed quietly, filled with unspoken words and silent tears. Wrapped in his pheromones, I felt as though Nathan had woven me a cloud to hold on to, soft, warm, and fleeting. When I woke the next morning, he was already gone. Only the creased bedsheets proved he had ever been there at all, and that it wasn't just another dream born of longing. The soothing effect of his pheromones had steadied my body a little. I went downstairs for breakfast. Nathan was already at the table. I took my seat across from him, and soon the kitchen staff brought out a small bowl of porridge with minced meat and vegetables. The butler smiled kindly. "Mr. Shaw hasn't had much of an appetite lately. It's good to see you eating again. Have some porridge first. The kitchen can make whatever else you like." The first half of his words was clearly meant for Nathan to hear, but Nathan didn't even blink. After finishing his bowl of pigeon soup, he wiped his mouth with calm precision, then finally spoke. "In a few days, the Wong family is hosting an engagement banquet." He looked straight at me. "Evan, you'll go with me. Once that's over, I'll do as you wish. We'll get the divorce." The youngest son of the Wong family was getting engaged. The charity auction was in the afternoon, followed by the engagement banquet that evening. Nathan took me out early that day, probably thinking I'd been cooped up in the house for too long. The sky was overcast, but thankfully it didn't rain. Our first stop was a custom tailoring studio. As soon as I realized where we were, I hesitated. "There's no need," I said quietly. "I already have something suitable at home." Nathan didn't even entertain the idea. He grabbed a measuring tape. "You've lost a lot of weight lately," he said flatly. His palm hovered over my lower abdomen. "It's not showing yet," he murmured. I wanted to tell him, "Of course it isn't showing. It's only been 3 months." But I swallowed the words. I held my breath as he finished taking my measurements, then tried to change the subject. "It's too late to alter anything now, isn't it?" A young apprentice brought over 2 cups of hot tea and said politely, "Mr. Smith sent your measurements in last night. The alterations are already done." I blinked, my hands warming around the teacup. "Then why measure again?" Nathan lowered his gaze and took a sip of tea. "I just wanted to see if my hands measured as accurately as the tailor's." We drank in silence. After changing into the altered suit, Nathan glanced at his watch. "There's still some time before the auction starts. Walk with me." It felt strange. What kind of couple about to divorce goes out strolling together, hand in hand, no less? We were never that kind of pair. Even after a year of marriage, we rarely spent time out like this. Yet today, Nathan seemed oddly cheerful. He kept picking out things for me: clothes, jewelry, accessories. If time hadn't been short, I think he would have even bought 2 movie tickets just to sit beside me in a dark theater. By the time we arrived at the Grand Hotel the Wangs had rented for the occasion, the auction hall was already filling up. I put on my practiced smile, the same one I used for every business gathering, and greeted familiar faces one by one. The charity auction was just for show. Old Mr. Wang had a wild youth, full of questionable deeds. Now that he was older, he wanted to do good and accumulate some virtue for his descendants, hence the charity foundations and fundraising events. Whether they were truly charitable, no one dared to say. But everyone still played along, of course. People raised their paddles here and there, making symbolic bids. Nathan lifted his paddle twice, casually buying a few trinkets. Then the final item was brought out: a sapphire diamond ring, named Heart of the Ocean. 100 years ago, a Swiss jeweler had chosen the gem to commemorate 50 years of marriage with his beloved. The best designer of the era crafted it by hand. Now, a century later, it still gleamed like new, timeless and dazzling. The crowd stirred with interest. Many people started bidding. I glanced at Nathan. He wasn't even looking at me, yet his paddle went up. No matter how high the bidding climbed, he kept going, calm, determined, until he finally won it for 20 million. The ring was soon brought over. Nathan reached for my hand. He'd already noticed I wasn't wearing my wedding band today. The sapphire caught the light as he slid it toward my finger. I instinctively pulled back. "Nathan, I don't want it." His voice was soft but firm. "But I want to put it on you." I stopped resisting. The cool metal slipped into place on my ring finger. By coincidence, or perhaps not, the ring fit perfectly. Not a fraction too loose or too tight. Nathan said quietly, "Think of it as a gift." He didn't finish the sentence, but I knew what he meant. A parting gift. Someone nearby chuckled. "Mr. Smith, you two still seem so in love." Another voice joined in teasingly. "Of course they are. They've only been married a year, still in the honeymoon phase. Unlike the rest of us old-timers, long past that stage." Laughter rippled through the group. I forced a smile, though my stomach twisted painfully. Something hot and sour rose in my throat. I stood abruptly. "Excuse me," I murmured, then hurried toward the restroom. I didn't let Nathan follow me. My morning sickness had been getting worse. I needed his pheromones to calm it, but if he noticed that, he'd never agree to divorce. And if this dragged on, he'd eventually discover my illness, too. Better to end things quickly. When I finally composed myself and returned, the auction was over. The guests had moved to the garden, champagne glasses in hand, chatting and laughing beneath the warm lights. I spotted Nathan immediately, standing among the Wang family, speaking with effortless grace. For a moment I thought about walking over, but my legs wouldn't move. Forget it, I told myself. We're about to divorce anyway. Better to stay in the background, quietly, as always. I picked out a few pieces of dessert and found a quiet, empty corner to fill my empty stomach after throwing up earlier. As I ate, the sweetness spread across my tongue. Not far away, 2 Omegas walked by, both looking familiar. They were probably family members of some guests. I moved behind a tree, not in the mood to talk to anyone. The 2 stopped just a few steps away, clinked their glasses together, and began to gossip. "Hey, did you see? Nathan Smith spent 20 million on a ring for his Omega, Evan Shaw." Of course I did. Anyone in that room who isn't blind or deaf would have noticed. I'm so jealous. My husband was about to bid too, but when he saw Nathan raise his paddle, he gave up right away, said there was no point competing since Mr. Smith always gets what he wants. Evan sure is lucky. Everyone knows Nathan's grandfather was on his deathbed and wanted to see his grandson married before he passed. So many people attended that banquet, beautiful, talented Omegas everywhere, and Nathan chose him of all people. A bastard child. You don't get it. That's exactly why. He's got that wild, untamed charm. Must have inherited it from his Omega father. They burst out laughing. I stuffed my mouth with more dessert. The sweetness was too much. It turned bitter. I've heard things like this all my life, yet it still stings every single time. I slowly took a step back, ready to leave. But the two weren't done talking. Speaking of his Omega father, I actually heard something crazy, one of them whispered. Someone in the Shaw family just died. Did you hear about that? Who? An old servant. I can't remember his name, but he'd been working in the Shaw household for decades. That's not the point, though. The point is, he was supposedly Evan's alpha father's lover. No way. I've seen that old man. He must have been 70 or 80. Mr. Shaw is only in his 50s. How could he possibly have liked an old man like that? You don't know, huh? The servant had some kind of rare disease, something like premature gland aging. Makes your body deteriorate early and shortens your lifespan. Word is that old servant was actually Evan's Omega father, and he's been secretly looking after him all these years. Are you serious? I thought Mr. Shaw just brought Evan home one day and no one knew who the mother was. Maybe they knew but couldn't say. And if it's true, if that old servant really was his Omega father, don't you think Evan might have inherited that premature aging condition too? What if he starts looking old while he's still young? Do you think Nathan would still want him then? A buzzing filled my head. I couldn't hear the rest. I knew that old servant. They called him Mr. Liu. He was the one who took care of me the most when I was a kid. I remembered the deep wrinkles at the corners of his eyes, his graying hair. He looked older than my alpha father. I always called him Uncle Liu. As I grew up and got busy with school and work, I saw him less and less. On the day Nathan and I got married, Uncle Liu was there too. It was the first time I'd seen him in a suit. Nathan and I even toasted him, but I hadn't gone home in a long time. Suddenly, a sharp pain twisted in my chest. Uncle Liu was gone. Why didn't anyone tell me? I started walking, wanting to find my father and ask. Just as I turned, I saw Nathan standing not far away, his face pale. "Evan, you," he called softly. I followed his gaze downward. A bright red stain was spreading across my white pants. The world spun around me. The last thing I felt before losing consciousness was Nathan's arms wrapping tightly around me as he rushed forward to catch me. "Uncle Liu, can you please stop picking me up from school?" Back then, I was still in elementary school. After he helped me take a bath, I tugged on his sleeve and made my request with all the seriousness a child could muster. Uncle Liu lowered his eyes for a moment before lifting them again, his voice gentle as ever. "Why, Evan? You don't want me to pick you up anymore?" I pouted, my nose starting to sting. The words my classmates had said that day echoed in my ears. "Uncle Liu, they said you look like my grandpa, not my uncle." Before I could finish, tears spilled over. Why doesn't my Omega dad want me? I don't want to be a bastard child. I want my dad to pick me up from school, too. Children always act differently depending on who they're with. In front of my alpha father, I was obedient and polite, but all my tears and pain were saved for the person who treated me the best, Uncle Liu. Back then, I didn't understand that pain is something only the people who truly care about you are willing to share. Uncle Liu pulled me into his arms and gently rubbed my back, trying to soothe me. "Don't cry, Evan. I'm sure your father didn't mean to. He must have his reasons. You're still young, and I'd worry if you went home alone after school. How about this? When I come pick you up, I'll stay farther away so no one sees, all right?" His voice now felt like it came from across endless tides, soft, fading, distant. But I could still see his face clearly, those drooping eyelids pulled down by age, and beneath them, eyes full of guilt and tenderness. "Uncle Liu, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Tears nearly drowned me before I could reach out and grasp something warm, a lifeline pulling me back to consciousness. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was Nathan Smith's tired face, dark circles shadowing his eyes and a faint layer of stubble along his jaw. "Evan, you're awake. Are you still feeling unwell?" I blinked in confusion, and he reached out, gently wiping the moisture from my cheeks. Suddenly, I grabbed his hand tightly. "Am I bleeding? The baby? What about the baby?" Nathan took my hand in his voice steady but low. "The baby's fine. The doctor said you've been too stressed lately, and I haven't been giving you enough pheromone support. That's why there were signs of a threatened miscarriage." My hand trembled as I touched my stomach, now slightly rounded. Still there. The baby's still there. Thank goodness. That was all I had left now, the only connection keeping me together. I slowly calmed down and released Nathan's hand. I wanted to go with you to the Wong family's engagement party, but I ruined everything. I'm sorry. Nathan held onto my fingertips, his grip firm. We're not divorced yet. Don't be so formal with me. The engagement party isn't more important than you. Evan, just rest. I've already looked into the rumors you heard. If they're true, I'll bring your father here and make him give you an explanation. If they're false, I'll make sure whoever started them pays the price. I stared at him, my eyes burning again. Nathan had always been a man of immaculate appearance, his shirts always crisp, his hair perfectly styled. But now, his eyes were bloodshot, his once-pressed shirt wrinkled. It was clear he hadn't changed or slept in a long time, staying by my side through it all. Nathan, I always seem to cause you trouble. I started crying again, helplessly. Nathan brushed my tears away with the back of his hand. It's not trouble. Don't say that. His voice was calm, expression unreadable, but everything he did was for my sake. He took the pocket square from his suit and tucked it into my palm. What matters is that you're awake. I'll go take care of a few things. Get some rest. I nodded quietly and closed my eyes. Only after I heard him leave did I open them again. The pocket square was soft in my hand, faintly carrying Nathan's pheromone scent. I pressed it to my nose and inhaled deeply. I needed to remember this scent. Nathan was always efficient when it came to handling things. On the third day of my stay in the top-floor hospital suite, my father, an alpha, came to visit, carrying a brown leather suitcase. It had been a while since I'd seen him. There were streaks of gray in his hair now. Something in me tensed. A bad premonition crept in. My hands curled into fists as I glanced at Nathan. Nathan placed a steady hand on my shoulder, silent yet grounding. Dad? The word came out dry and heavy. My father didn't respond right away. He just slowly set the suitcase down and said, "These are the things Uncle Lou left behind. He wanted them burned, didn't want you to see them. But I thought maybe you should know." His lips trembled as he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of years long gone. "Back then, I defied your grandfather's arranged marriage and ran away. That's when I met him. And I made a mistake. He wanted to leave, but then you came along, and later he fell ill. I don't remember exactly when my father left. It was as if he'd been swept away by the wind, like a dried leaf disappearing into the distance." Nathan closed the door behind him and pulled me into a long, quiet embrace. After a while, he asked softly, "Do you want to open Uncle Lou's suitcase?" I shook my head desperately. "No, I don't. Take it away. I don't want to see it." I curled up under the blanket, trying to block out everything that had happened in the past few days. If I could just forget, maybe Uncle Lou would still be alive. Nathan didn't argue. He simply pried my fingers, already bitten raw, from my palm, then gently brushed my cheek. Maybe it was because he stayed with me constantly, but the nausea I'd been feeling finally stopped. In its place came a deep, unshakable sleepiness. But even my sleep wasn't peaceful. I'd wake drenched in sweat, sometimes even bleeding. I didn't dare tell Nathan. I just drifted through the days, half conscious, half lost. Half a month later, I couldn't even fall asleep anymore. To keep Nathan from worrying, I pretended to be asleep. When I heard the doctor call him outside, I quietly followed. I couldn't hear everything they said, but their faces looked grave. The doctor handed Nathan a few sheets of paper. My stomach twisted. Those papers? Were they my death sentence? My heart pounded as I slipped back into the room and lay down again, pretending to sleep. When Nathan returned, I feigned waking up, forcing an awkward smile. "You went out just now?" The edge of those papers peeked out of his pocket. I wanted to ignore them, but I couldn't. "You saw the doctor, didn't you? What did he say?" Nathan quickly shoved the papers deeper into his pocket and sat beside me, holding my shoulders. "Evan, listen to me." For the first time, his eyes flickered. "The doctor said your body isn't in any condition to carry a child right now. Evan, let's not." "No." Before he could finish, I broke down completely. The string I'd been holding taut for so long finally snapped. I shoved him away, voice shaking. "Don't even think about it. It's inside me. My baby. I won't let anyone take it away." I wrapped my arms protectively around my stomach and tried to run, but the windows were sealed and Nathan stood blocking my way. My throat tightened and I could barely breathe. I stared at him, trembling. I must have looked pitiful, but Nathan wasn't as forceful as I expected. He looked helpless, even pained. "Evan, please don't be afraid. I'm not." I couldn't hear him clearly anymore. My hearing, my vision, both were fading. I almost fell to my knees, whispering through tears, "Nathan, please, please don't. This child is all I have left." After that, I remember nothing, because Nathan released his pheromones, soothing, dominant, until they completely calmed and subdued me. Nathan completely imprisoned me. My world had shrunk down to the master bedroom bed. I was barely allowed to leave it. I knew that if I resisted too hard, Nathan might actually resort to using chains to keep me there. So I started pretending to behave. Most of the time, I just curled up quietly, saying nothing. Nathan hired a team of more specialized doctors who came every day to check on my condition. At first, I refused to eat, terrified they might put something in the food to harm my baby. The old butler brought in a bowl of soup, his voice soft and pleading. "Please, just eat a little. If you don't eat, the baby will suffer too. I promise, there's nothing in it. Please, for my sake, just a few bites." I knew my mind wasn't right, but I couldn't control myself. Nathan no longer slept in a separate room. He left early every morning and came home late. I always fell asleep before he returned, but when I woke up, I was always in his arms. His arm wrapped tightly around me, his other hand resting protectively over my stomach. He was always so warm. Part of me couldn't help but lean into that warmth, and another part of me wanted to escape from it completely. I knew we couldn't go on like this. It was torture for both of us. So that night, after washing myself clean, I waited until Nathan had fallen deeply asleep. Then, under the covers, I quietly undid the buttons of his sleep shirt with my teeth and began to kiss him gently, trying to please him. Nathan stirred. His body went rigid. I slowly moved lower. He couldn't hold it in any longer. In one swift motion, he pulled me up against his chest, his eyes burning red. "Evan, why are you doing this?" His voice trembled with anger and pain. "You don't want this. You're shaking all over. Why are you forcing yourself?" My face was wet with tears. I tried to kiss his chin, his cheek, desperate. "I do want it, Nathan. I do. I'll be good. I just don't want things to stay like this anymore." Nathan turned away from my kiss and grabbed my jaw firmly. "Then what is it you want?" "I want a divorce," I whispered. "I'm not fit to be your partner for life. You don't have to keep doing this for me." Nathan closed his eyes and drew a long, heavy breath. "We both missed the Wang's engagement party," he said quietly. "So what I said that day doesn't count anymore. Evan, if you're thinking about divorce, forget it." His gaze darkened, and before I could react, he pulled me into a rough, consuming kiss. Our teeth clashed, the metallic taste of blood spreading between us, but neither of us let go. We were like two wild beasts, tearing at each other until exhaustion blurred the edges of the night. That night was chaos. Nathan lost control completely, and together we wrecked the entire master bedroom. If I hadn't stopped him halfway, afraid I'd pass out from dehydration, he would have dragged me to another room and continued. When I woke up, I was in the guest room next door. My lips were dry and cracked. The butler was already there, smiling kindly with a tray that held a bowl of porridge and a glass of warm water. "You're awake? Thirsty? Or would you like to eat something first?" I blinked, still dazed. "Why am I in here?" He chuckled, teasing. "The master bedroom's being cleaned up. Mr. Smith's in the study working. He told me to stay with you until you woke up." I scratched my cheek awkwardly. "Oh, I see." The butler smiled knowingly. "You see, madam, there's no problem between a married couple that can't be fixed. Just be good to Mr. Smith, all right?" I managed a weak smile. He didn't know. Between Nathan and me, there were still things left unsaid. Before the truth comes out, every bit of sweetness between us is nothing more than sugar-coated poison. Nathan and I began spending more and more time together. Most days, he stayed home with me, only heading to his study when work demanded it. After the doctor confirmed that my health had stabilized, Nathan finally lifted my restrictions and allowed me to go out for walks. Sometimes we didn't just stroll around the estate. He would even drive me out to the city. We'd hold hands, go on dates, talk, and watch movies, just like any other ordinary couple. As the weather grew colder, Nathan always remembered to bring me thicker clothes. We'd walk side by side, our hands tightly clasped inside the warm sleeves of our coats. Before a movie started, when the theater went dark for a moment, he would lean over and place the lightest kiss on my lips, like a dragonfly touching water. That day, the movie turned out to be painfully boring. I ended up dozing off on his shoulder halfway through, and when it was over, I gave him a kiss to make up for it. The word divorce became something we both silently agreed never to mention again. When I was 5 months pregnant, it snowed heavily. Our planned outing had to be canceled. So Nathan and I went down to the home theater in the basement and picked a movie at random. Wrapped in a blanket, I said to him, "I used to come here alone a lot. You probably haven't been down here since it was built, huh?" I actually helped pick a few of the films we funded. They did really well, too. Nathan sat beside me, pulling both me and the blanket into his arms. He pressed a kiss to the side of my neck, right where my gland was. You're amazing." Lately, he'd grown fonder of kissing me like that. But my gland was beginning to wither a little, and I didn't dare respond to his scent anymore. The movie began. I thought it was going to be a simple romance, harmless and easy to watch. But then the story took a turn. The female lead was diagnosed with a rare disease that caused her to age prematurely. My entire body went stiff. I didn't dare look at Nathan, but I could feel his arms tightening around me. By the time the woman had aged completely, collapsing beneath the cherry blossom tree, and the man she loved helped her up without recognizing her, my emotions finally broke. I turned to Nathan, clawing and biting at his shoulder. "Nathan, you did this on purpose. You knew about my condition, didn't you? You bastard!" Nathan didn't answer. His eyes were red as he reached up and gently wiped my tears away. I turned my head, still hitting him weakly through my tears, and through the blur, I noticed a few strands of white in his hair. A sob tore out of me. "Nathan!" Then I threw my arms around him, crying uncontrollably. "Why is it me who's sick and you who's going gray?" Nathan still said nothing. He only kissed me, deeply, over and over again. By the time I calmed down, the movie had ended. I stayed in his arms, whispering everything that had been haunting me. "I know I'm sick. I'm terrified, Nathan. What if I age too fast? What if I don't even make it until the baby's born? What if the baby inherits this disease and comes into the world already old? I'm so scared." Nathan rubbed my back soothingly. "I talked to the doctor. It's not as bad as we imagined. Medicine has advanced a lot. If your natural gland can't handle it, we can replace it with an artificial one, and the genetic risk is very low. Once the baby's born, we'll monitor everything closely and deal with it early. Don't be afraid, Evan. Whatever happens, I'll be here, with you." His words eased something inside me. I reached up and brushed the white strands at his temple, my heart full of both warmth and sorrow. "You've gotten pretty good at saying sweet things lately." Nathan smiled faintly. "I was born emotionally detached. I'm not good at expressing feelings, so I looked it up online. I even asked the doctor for advice. How am I doing so far?" I huffed softly, pretending to be annoyed. "Even if I'm satisfied now, who knows what you'll be like later?" Nathan suddenly lowered his head and kissed the fading spot on my gland, his voice low and rough. "Baby, I'll treat you right for the rest of my life." My ears burned instantly, my whole face flushing red. I buried myself in his arms and changed the subject clumsily. "I know you're not good with emotions, but why did you choose me in the first place? You can't have just married me because you thought I looked nice, right?" Nathan took my hand and pressed it to his chest. "No," he said softly. "I used the most scientific method." Back then, Grandpa Smith had been bedridden for a long time. His only wish before he passed was to see his grandson settle down. But Nathan Smith knew himself too well. He wasn't good at expressing emotions. In fact, he could barely even feel them sometimes. So marriage was something he'd never considered, because he wasn't confident he could ever be a good alpha husband. Yet Grandpa's health was deteriorating, and Nathan couldn't ignore his last wish. If this was what Grandpa wanted, Nathan would make it happen, no matter what. After he agreed, he quickly received piles of profiles of eligible Omegas. Nathan flipped through them one by one, but for the first time, he felt completely overwhelmed. To him, they all looked the same. Grandpa chuckled and said, "Then meet them in person. Your parents were like that too. They saw each other's photos and weren't impressed, but once they met, they just knew." Nathan nodded. Of course, he also thought ahead. Divorce would be troublesome, so he had to choose the most compatible partner, just like selecting a long-term business collaborator. To make that decision, Nathan resorted to a rather traditional method, testing his heart rate. They said when you meet someone you like, your heart beats faster. Even if Nathan couldn't feel emotions, his body wouldn't lie. At this point, Nathan seemed almost proud when he told me the only time my heart rate shot up to 120 was when I met you. I tested it several times, until the butler finally said, "Mr. Smith, please stop. Your heart rate graph looks like it's forming a heart shape." I laughed softly and leaned my ear against Nathan's chest. Really? Your heart actually beats faster when you see me? The strong, steady rhythm against my ear was proof enough. He murmured, yes. It gradually calmed down later, but never back to normal. Even now, when I think of you, it rises again. Listening to his heartbeat, my smile froze on my lips. I asked him one last time, Nathan, do you ever regret marrying me? Nathan's expression was calm, but his voice was firm. My feelings for you came without reason, so why would I ever regret it? He reached out, brushed my cheek, and whispered, Evan, you can always rely on me. I cupped Nathan's face and kissed him, deeply, tenderly. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but somehow I knew that ours wouldn't be a tragedy either. Extra chapter. Nathan's memo. 1. He doesn't sleep well at night. Release more pheromones to help him relax. 2. Study real couple date diaries and choose suitable activities. Progress. We've gone on several dates recently. His mood has improved. He even kissed me first. Good. Keep it up. 3. The doctor said I should learn to feel and express emotions. Progress. I've learned a lot about his past. Strangely, my heart aches a little. 4. When words fail, use touch. Kiss him more. 5. Compliments aren't hard. Say them more often. 6. Keep loving him. Always. Extra chapter. The butler's perspective. When little Jamie Smith turned 1, he was a chubby, bright-eyed baby who loved to blow spit bubbles while sitting in the old butler's arms, giggling as they twirled around the living room. That same year, Evan underwent an artificial gland transplant surgery. Before the operation, the butler went to a famous temple and brought back 2 protective amulets. He gave one to Evan and placed the other inside the old leather suitcase belonging to Evan's late Omega father. That suitcase held all of Evan's childhood memories: pencils, erasers, certificates, and old notebooks. The butler later learned the full story of Evan's past, and his heart ached deeply. He placed the amulet inside the suitcase and whispered, To your Father in heaven, don't worry, your son will live safely and happily from now on. The surgery went smoothly. Evan's rejection response was minimal. When they returned home from the hospital, little Jamie was playing on the lawn of the estate. The moment he saw his father, he stumbled to his feet and ran toward him, laughing. Evan scooped him up and rubbed their noses together affectionately. The butler stood at a distance, not wanting to interrupt. He had served the Smith family since Nathan's grandfather's time. Now, seeing Nathan with a family of his own, the butler felt a strange, dreamlike nostalgia. Watching the 3 of them together, a picture of warmth and quiet happiness, he couldn't help but murmur the words he'd once heard in an old movie. Young master, it's been so long since I've seen you smile like that. The end.